Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. Well, a remarkable piece of polling, exclusive piece of polling by LBC, shows there are more Britons who would rather leave the European Union than maintain Northern Ireland as part of the United Kingdom. And no surprise that 3/4 of those who chose that had actually voted Brexit. So what is going on here? Well, I think over the last half a century, we've had an increasing sense of detachment from Northern Ireland. It has felt less and less part, integrally of the United Kingdom. And, you could talk about the Anglo-Irish Agreement back in the mid-1980s. You could talk about the peace deal and, to an extent, degrees of joint sovereignty with the Republic of Ireland. But I don't think it's just that. It's this. There is a growing mood of pessimism about Brexit, about the time it's taking, about whether Brexiteers will get what they actually wanted on fisheries or anything else. And the absolutely key demand from that lovely Monsieur Barnier, or Monsieur Barrier, as I think he should be called, is Northern Ireland. So we've had an agreement last week that will move to a transition. But as we move forward to negotiating some kind of free trade agreement, or even just trade agreement going ahead with the European Union, the sword of Damocles that is being held is Northern Ireland and the border. I personally believe that already there are massive differences between the Republic and the North, different tax rates, different currencies, different VAT levied on some products, and yet live and let live, we continue and we exist. But, to get a poll like this that says Brexiteers would rather have Brexit and be happy to ditch Northern Ireland, this is exactly what Mr. Barnier wanted. They would love the European Union to split up the United Kingdom, to see Brexit break us apart, and they do that at the same time as they're happy to see 5 senior Catalan politicians in the last 24 hours imprisoned and held because they want Catalonia to be independent. But that's what Europe wanted from the start. So I'm asking you, is it now time, after 30 years of trouble, after huge expense, after much blood has been expended, is it now time for us to cut adrift Northern Ireland so that in June we can get the kind of trade deal that we want? Because actually, on everything else, there appears to be agreement. Now, not my kind of agreement, but Theresa May's kind of agreement. But getting anything on Northern Ireland with Barnier is going to be very difficult. Is it time we prioritise Brexit over Northern Ireland being part of the United Kingdom? And I will not give you my opinion on this just yet, because I'm keen to hear yours. And David is calling from Worksop. He's my first caller on the show this evening. So, David, is it Brexit or is it Northern Ireland, or is this a really false choice?
I'm sorry, it's Brexit, and there's no argument. They're going to drag this on and drag it on and drag it on. They've never even shown any interest in the Troubles in years gone by when we were having to deal with it. And I just said to your producer, why don't we let Northern Ireland have a referendum to leave the United Kingdom? Because Northern Ireland wants to stay in the EU, then they can stay in the EU. We wouldn't be blocking
Well, isn't this a bit like Scotland, David? That a lot of people in Scotland voted in that referendum in 2014 to leave the United Kingdom, but actually, if you gave them the referendum independently, do they want to be part of the European Union instead? You might be surprised how many Scottish nationalists rather change their minds.
Well, I don't understand. They keep saying that we've got to keep the peace with the Good Friday Agreement.
Yep.
I'm puzzled to this, because I sort of was around there, and you had Protestants killing Catholics and Catholics killing Protestants and murdering people and doing all sorts of nasty things. And they're saying that because we've got the agreement, if we have a hard border, that's going to start again. So are we not being blackmailed by people who did nasty things before, who are threatening to do nasty things again, like kneecapping and putting drills through soldiers' heads, and little things like that?
Well, actually, David, I've not heard voices on either side of the border suggesting that because Britain's leaving the European Union, we're going to go back on those agreements that were made 20 years ago. I hear it in Brussels, David.
Yeah.
It's Brussels that are doing this.
It's a smoke screen, and they're using it and exaggerating it because they don't basically want us to leave, and that's the end of it. They'll drag it out, and they'll drag it out as much as they can, until hopefully they'll think we get a Labour government who will overturn everything. That's the plan.
But ultimately, David, given the choice, you would choose Brexit over, over Northern Ireland staying part of the UK.
Absolutely. It's cost us millions, that country.
But it's part of our country, David.
Well, life moves on, and I'd love for the English to have a referendum to come out of the United Kingdom.
Right.
Thank you, Nigel.
Well, what about the poor Welsh? I mean, they voted Brexit as well.
I love the Welsh. Yeah, well, we could have England and Wales together.
And Scotland, at the end of the day, is going to choose the UK over Brussels, isn't it?
I don't know. I think SNP's losing a lot of its persona as time goes on, and the Scottish fishermen, quite right, are absolutely utterly furious.
As they should be. They should be. But I mean, David, if we were to say, all right, to hell with you in Northern Ireland, you know, we're going for Brexit, you're the obstacle, you're ruining it. I mean, constitutionally and morally, wouldn't that be an awful thing to do?
Of course it would. It would, but I suppose Northern Ireland's got to decide, does it want to be with the United Kingdom or with the European Union? It's not fair that, have we got 66 million people?
Well, that's legally, David, yeah.
In Northern Ireland, you've got about 1 million. Is it fair that...
Slightly more than that, but yes. No, OK, so you're saying that actually the tail's wagging the dog here?
Yeah. They get more money per head. I think Scotland gets much more money per head from its spending assessment.
All right.
So we're subsidising them, aren't we, basically?
But if you had a referendum in Northern Ireland and they voted to stay part of the UK, whatever, that would, of course, prejudice our deal with Brussels.
How could it, sorry?
Because they're putting up the border as being an insuperable problem. I mean, I think actually through technology, or even better, to make an exemption for Irish agriculture, I think there are positive ways forward with this.
Yeah, they don't want to. They'll come up with every little... I read somewhere else that they're trying to keep us in a transitional period indefinitely, and they're going to keep finding obstacles for it to continue.
Well, David, my view on this, I think if you ask the people of Northern Ireland and gave them this hard choice, my belief is they would vote to stay part of the United Kingdom, and we could not, in those circumstances, jettison them. After all, we sent a task force 8,000 miles away to defend the rights of 1,800 people living on the Falkland Islands.
Yeah. I mean, what we really want is to stay as we are, but people are using other situations to create as many obstacles.
Right, so, but if it comes to it, in the final analysis, David, it's Brexit over Northern Ireland, yeah?
Well, we've got to think about Britain.
OK, no, well, David, thank you. You've made that very clear, and that's why the LBC poll is as it is. I get from Tony by text, Northern Ireland is British, and until they want something different to happen, we should be proud of them being part of our UK family. James is a brand new caller from Reading. Good evening.
Hi, Nigel. Lovely to speak to you.
Thank you. So, come on, is it Brexit, or is it Northern Ireland, or is that a false choice?
All I'm going to say is that I completely agree with you that if the people of Northern Ireland had to make the choice themselves, they'd side with going to the UK over going to the EU. I'm a student at Queen's University Belfast, and as part of that, you look at the data of the sort of census and the surveys, and they all I mean, regardless of religion, political party belief, it's evident that the people of Northern Ireland want to stay as part of the UK above all else. It's about 70 or 80% want to stay as part of the UK rather than join part of the United Ireland or go independent. And I just don't think... I think we're making a problem out of absolutely nothing. There are existing processes in place, such as VAT. We have soft border for VAT. There's no reason why we'd have to do that for something we'd have to change anything.
Well, I mean, James, if we had a free trade agreement with the European Union, there wouldn't be a problem at all because no tariffs would be applied. But the argument they're making is if we go to a tariff regime, there has to be a hard border. And yet, already, James, there's a different currency on both sides of the border. There's, different tax rates on both sides of the border. Surely there's a pragmatic, sensible way of dealing with this, even with tariffs.
Well, of course, there's a pragmatic and sensible way, and I don't think anyone on the island of Ireland is arguing for anything other than that. There's no appetite for it. It's mainly just used as a political football by the EU to try.
It's Brussels, isn't it? It's Barnier. It's that bad boy Barnier who would love to break up the United Kingdom. James, enjoy your time at Queen's. I've spoken there a couple of times in Belfast. Great university. Thank you for your call. Well, James thinks it can all be dealt with regardless. It just needs us to be pragmatic and sensible. I do really rather agree. I certainly would not want us to jettison Northern Ireland just to satisfy that bully boy Barnier. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusive in LBC. It's now 7:15.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
The exclusive LBC poll done with YouGov found that voters said that delivering Brexit was a greater priority than keeping Northern Ireland as part of the Union. LBC's political editor Theo Ashwood.
Only 29% believe keeping Northern Ireland within the United Kingdom should be top priority.
Hilary Benn, who chairs the Brexit Select Committee.
The UK must remain united. The government itself admits it hasn't yet found the solution. The poll findings are a symptom of that failure.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With The Times. Be not just informed, but well informed.
He's always been a quiet kid.
But now he doesn't interact with other children at all.
Gets scared when you talk to him.
Very insecure. And there's always angry shouting from the house.
We all have a role to play in keeping children safe. If you think a child may be at risk, report it to your local council who can provide support. Child abuse. If you think it, report it. Find out how at gov.uk/tackle-child-abuse.
Finally, it's spring. The days are getting longer. Time to gather friends and fire up the barbecue. Take the guesswork out of barbecuing this year with the Weber iGrill. The iGrill thermometer connects to an app on your phone. Simply tell it what you're cooking, how you'd like it cooked, and the iGrill will tell you when your food is ready. Now you can claim an iGrill 3 for free when you buy a Weber Genesis 2 gas barbecue. Offer valid until the 15th of April. Participating stores, conditions apply. Visit Weber.com for more information.
At the third stroke, the time sponsored by Cunard will be any time you like. Time to stop. Time to relax. Time to indulge. Time to love. Showtime. Time for a voyage with Cunard.
Frank's accidental Easter salmon.
My wife loves salmon. Last year on Good Friday, I thought I'd surprise her by cooking a whole one, so I popped down to Tesco. The thing is, though, I'm not exactly the greatest cook, and I managed to break it in two. So, in a moment of panic, I wrapped it in puff pastry, and voila, salmon Wellington. I'm doing it again this year.
Make your own Easter fish course with our deliciously fresh and responsibly sourced salmon. Food Love Stories, brought to you by Tesco.
Where do you charge an electric car?
How quickly can I do it?
How far can you go on one charge?
How much can I save?
Can I charge it at home?
Do I need a house with a drive? Can you get an electric shock off them?
If I plug in my mobile phone, will the car's battery run out?
Can they go in car washes?
Got questions about owning an electric car? Get the answers at goultralow.com.
To find the truth, you wouldn't listen to just one voice. You wouldn't believe just one story, or trust just one opinion. And neither would we. The Week magazine reviews all the issues of our day and where everyone stands on them. Sign up online and try 6 issues for free. Search The Week magazine today. After all, you shouldn't make up your mind on just one issue. Cancel anytime during the free period or continue with 13 issues for just £31.25.
This This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
An exclusive LBC poll shows there are now a majority of Brexiteers who would rather Northern Ireland left the United Kingdom in order that we get a proper Brexit. And that's because Mr Barnier is holding the Northern Irish border over us like a sword of Damocles. I'm asking you, would you choose Brexit over Northern Ireland, or is this indeed actually a false choice? Do we need to stick together as a United Kingdom and tell the EU where to go? But before I go back to that, every single year, the ZN Index publish their findings using 103 separate factors on which are the top financial centres in the world to do business. Now, I've no doubt any of you that listen to the news here on LBC will have heard the gloomy, dire predictions of Lloyd Blankfein from Goldman Sachs, who recently said, I've just come back from Frankfurt, had a great time there with Brexit. I'll be spending more of my life in Frankfurt. And you've heard that people could be moving in their thousands to Paris and elsewhere. Well, let me tell you that the ZN Index for this year shows that London is still the top financial centre on the planet in which to do business, followed by a whisker by New York. But what's interesting are the changes. The changes are that cities like San Francisco and Chicago have shot up as being great places to do business, and Frankfurt has fallen 9 places and is now considered the 20th best financial centre in the world to do business. By the way, Paris doesn't even rank in those top 20. So when you hear that pessimism from those big banks who want us to stay part of the European Union, who warn you about London's future, just think of that poll and recognise that they're wrong. Because the same people told us back in 2000, if we didn't join the euro, London would collapse as a financial centre. By text I would choose Brexit first, of course. If Northern Ireland want to stay with Britain, then they should stop being difficult, says Kathy. No way. There is no either or for Northern Ireland. It's absurd. We have Brexit, we maintain the UK, we have to work harder to sort it out, says Phil from Thurrock. And breaking news, a German court has ordered Catalonia's ex-president, Carles Puigdemont, to be held in custody for the length of extradition proceedings against him, prosecutors have said. So, Puigdemont is going to be kept in prison in Germany as the Spanish government, having used a European arrest warrant, try to get him deported. I opposed the European arrest warrant back in 2001 when it first appeared before the European Parliament, and I was confronted by a very young-looking, mind you, I was quite young too, but a very young-looking Nick Clegg who said, with this, we can extradite terrorists, it'll make it easier to remove criminals from other countries. To which I responded, well, actually, we've had extradition in place with countries like France for almost 200 years. But no, I was told it was necessary, it would help to stop organised crime. And I warned from the start, this European arrest warrant could be used as a tool of oppression. And that is what is happening now in Spain. The Spanish government want to imprison all of the people that have campaigned for Catalonian separation and independence. And I'd remind you, not one of them has used a gun, has used violence. They just have a different point of view. The whole thing, in my view, is outrageous. And Theresa May, let me say this to you. You want us post-Brexit to be still part of the European arrest warrant system. If anything can convince the British public that's wrong, is what is happening to Carles Puigdemont today in Germany. We're going to go now to Colin from Omar in Northern Ireland. Colin, were you shocked when you saw the LBC poll this morning?
No, I'm happy.
Happy?
Yeah. Look, Nigel, you keep saying that France is holding this border thing. The border, the problem has always been there. Brexit is causing it to come apart, and the DUP are bloody pushing for it. They won't let Irish Language Act. It's our culture. This is our country. This is Ireland. So why can we not speak our own language in it? The DUP are a small percentage. They're the only ones that want to stay with the UK. The majority of Ireland want to leave,
Right.
or want to be United Ireland.
So you're an Irish nationalist, Colm, yeah?
I am.
Okay.
And the majority says, it doesn't matter, see Brexit. With it starting, the DUP has brought all the skeletons out onto out of the closet. And whether we get it with Brexit through the deal or whatever, it doesn't matter, because a border poll's coming within 5 years and there will be United Ireland.
Let me ask you, Colm, as a self-professed Irish nationalist, do you want the island of Ireland to be part of the European Union?
Well, first of all, I want them to be part of Ireland.
No, I asked you a separate question. Do you want...
I don't mind.
You don't mind? So you call yourself an Irish nationalist, but you're happy to be governed by Mr Juncker. How does that work?
Well, I'd rather them than they haven't murdered.
Would you really?
Eradicated.
Right, so you don't believe in democracy, you don't really believe in Irish independence, you just hate the British, yeah?
No, I just want my country back.
But you've accused us, in
my own country without having to feel like a second-class citizen.
And why would you, living in Northern Ireland, why would you feel today a second-class citizen?
What do you mean? The DUP, they talk, and I watch the House of Commons all the time. The DUP sit there like, Sinn Féin's this and that. They're anti-gay, anti-everything. The people, the majority, voted for gay rights, and they bloody vetoed it.
Well, let me put this back to you, Colm. Sinn Féin, do you know what? When it came to the Lisbon referendum, the treaty referendum that took place in Ireland, and I hummed and hawed, but I shared a platform in Dublin supporting the no side, and I shared that platform with Mary Lou MacDonald, Sinn Féin MEP, and now the leader of that party. And many people who knew me well were very surprised that I shared a platform with Sinn Féin. I did so, Colm, because Sinn Féin in those days was sincere, genuine Irish nationalists, and they had the same view of the European Union that I've got. And now Sinn Féin, and I'm guessing you must vote for Sinn Féin, given what you've said on this telephone call, and now Sinn Féin want a united Ireland to be part of the European Union. Haven't they completely sold out any concept of Irish independence?
No. The EU are only seeing for this problem, or not a problem, you keep saying it's an Irish problem. This is a British problem. You are the one who wanted to leave, and the majority said they wanted to stay. But you don't see it as a thing. Boris Johnson, the way he talks, a thing. Well, if he starts war in my country again, God help him.
And why would he do that?
The way he talks, the way he goes on, he treats it like a two boroughs in London. We took plenty of tax of people. He has no understanding or clue of life the way it is here.
So how do you exist, Colm, today? And there you are, living in Omagh. How does this border work today, or this non-border work today, given different currencies, different taxation regimes, different VAT rates? How does it operate now?
What do you mean? I can drive from here now down to Strabane, and I can go to Lifford. I get fill up in Lifford for a couple, for Europe with Euro. It's so easy. There's no
right. So given different currencies, different tax rates, different VAT regimes, it's easy. Yeah. You've just said it's easy. You can go down and fill up in euros, and it's easy. So why would it be more difficult?
Brexit.
So why would it be more difficult if there are tariffs on some on some products?
Because the smuggling will be right. They're always ready.
But the smuggling's rife already, Colm. You know that, depending on the relative value of the pound against the euro. All sorts of things go on, but that's considered to be a price worth paying for political cooperation and peace, surely.
But to us, right, the border thing, the problem to me is nothing to do with economy or, trade or anything. It's about there being if there's going to be a British presence.
Right. So you just hate the British, yeah? You just hate the British.
Fighting guns at my head when I was only a kid through my park.
Well, but nobody is suggesting a return, Colm, to anything like that, are they?
The rhetoric coming out of the DUP, you want to see the way they're going on here. They go over to London and act like they're sweet caramel, you know what I mean, and House Commons and Sinn Féin and the Irish Nationalists are monsters. We're asking for equal rights. All we want is a language act. There's one in Scotland, there's one in Wales. You know, they want to be like the rest of the UK, but they voted there for 1 million school dinners to be taken away from Scotland, Wales and England. But not here, you.
Colin, let me just put this to you. That if your dream of a united Ireland came true, would there actually be any point in it if you were European Union members?
I wouldn't care. I wouldn't.
You wouldn't care. Well, Colin, I have to say that you're very consistent against the British presence in Northern Ireland, and you may well have justifiable history for doing so. But how can it make sense to call yourself a nationalist and yet at the same time to think being part of the EU is fine? I don't really get that or understand it. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusive in LBC. It's now 7:30 and time for the news with Robin Schönhofer.
More than 100 Russian diplomats are going to be expelled from over 20 North American and European countries following the Salisbury spy poisoning. The Kremlin says today's reaction is a mistake and has accused the US and Britain of being behind the nerve agent attack. Catalonia's former president has been refused bail following his arrest over the weekend. A German court has ordered Carles Puigdemont to be held in custody for the length of extradition proceedings against him. And prominent Jewish groups are protesting outside Parliament because they're angry about anti-Semitism within Labour. Leader Jeremy Corbyn has apologised for what he calls pockets of prejudice. LBC weather, a fine evening but some heavy rain spreading in from the west overnight, lows of 2 degrees.
LBC travel, there are some serious problems on the M25 this evening, which is at a stand between junction 8 for Reigate and 9 for Leatherhead, with queues from junction 6 for Godstone after an accident. Anti-clockwise, it's queuing on the approach from Cobham Services after the air ambulance had to land. Also anti-clockwise on the M25, it's queuing from junction 3 for Swanley to junction 31 for West Thurrock after a lorry broke down. And on the train, South Western Railway have delays of up to half an hour and some cancellations at Waterloo. LBC Travel, I'm Charlotte Downs.
This is LBC.
In 1979, Andreas Mihavec went 18 days without food and water, setting a world record that still stands today. If, like our good friend Andreas, you enjoy enduring hours of hunger and thirst, then flying on a low-cost airline is just the ticket. If, however, you'd prefer a chilled glass of Chilean Sauvignon Blanc, a 3-course meal, award-winning entertainment and a cosy blanket, we now have the perfect option for you. New Virgin Atlantic Economy Light. Everything you'd expect from a great flight at a price you wouldn't.
Terms and conditions apply. Visit virginatlantic.com to book.
Days and weeks can fly by, but if you're worried it's cancer, time can slow down and almost stop. That's why, with Bupa Health Insurance, you can call us about any symptom of cancer without seeing your GP first. Depending on your cover and your symptoms, we could even refer you to a consultant there and then. Bupa Health Insurance. For living. To find out more, search Bupa. Direct access services may not be available for some underwriting methods, and you may need to provide evidence the conditions are not pre-existing.
£1 could buy you a couple of minutes at the hairdresser's, or a handful of cinema popcorn, or £1 could buy you a Thunderball ticket for a chance to win £500,000. Bit of a no-brainer, really. Thunderball, only from the National Lottery. For just £1, you could win £500,000. Why not play this Tuesday? Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
Universal Credit is opening up work for thousands of people across the country, providing support for people out of work or who start on a low income. It can top up your wages when you start a new job, making sure it's worth your while. And if your wages change, your Universal Credit changes automatically, giving you one less thing to worry about. So now it pays to take whatever job opportunities you find. Universal Credit. Opening up work. Find out more at gov.uk/openingupwork.
Block management. It's a doddle, isn't it? I mean, once you've got budget approval, all you need to do is your service charge invoices,
health and safety regulations paperwork, do the cleaning, the gardening, general maintenance, sort out site inspections, arrange contracts, insurance, emergency representation.
Yes, block management. Such a doddle.
Save time and money and cut down on the stress. For complete block management solutions, just call ABC Estates. ABC will take care of all your day-to-day management, leaving you as happy as Larry.
For complete block management solutions, see abcestates.co.uk or call 0800 888 6688.
What are the best things about working for yourself? Being the boss? Setting your own hours? Every day is Bring Your Dog to Work Day. Bet you didn't say invoicing. Send customized invoices in a moment with QuickBooks. Know when they've been seen, paid, or are overdue, so you can stay on top of your cash flow and get back to more enjoyable things. QuickBooks, backing you. Available now for up to 50% off your first 6 months. For terms and conditions, visit quickbooks.co.uk.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
An LBC poll reveals there are more Brexiteers now who would ditch Northern Ireland provided Brexit went through. I'm asking you, are you now prepared to get rid of Northern Ireland? I'm certainly not, and I don't think it should ever come to that. We need a very strong Prime Minister to stand up to Monsieur Barnier, who's made this a problem. And as I'm saying these words, there is a Jewish protest taking place down in Parliament Square. It is aimed at Jeremy Corbyn. I guess it's aimed a bit at Ken Livingstone and many others. The Labour Party, I think, actually genuinely in some trouble over this. And I think the mural that Corbyn said should not be removed was so blatantly anti-Jewish as to almost not be true. And I was a party leader of UKIP, and we were accused of all sorts of things, but mercifully, many couldn't provide the evidence. If I found anybody in UKIP who had been a member of an extreme group or organisation, we expelled them immediately. Corbyn's apologised for what he called pockets of anti-Semitism that exist within the Labour Party. Goodness me, if I'd ever said that, I would have been completely and utterly finished. I do think the Labour Party has a very major problem over this, and this story is going to run and run. The other big news is, I have to say, that on Thursday I was in Brussels, and I said to you that I felt Theresa May was struggling to get the level of solidarity from her European partners on Russia that she wanted to get. And I said that because of the attitude of the Greek government, the Hungarian government, the Italian local recent elections. And yet, actually, she did achieve, I thought, far more than I'd ever expected on that show in terms of people expelling diplomats. But none of this, of course, stopped the wonderful Anna Soubry, Member of Parliament for Broxtowe, who spoke in the House of Commons earlier on today and said that our EU colleagues had acted much more quickly and with more probity against Russia than that horrible Trump fella in the US. Here she is.
It was noticed by many people that our European Union colleagues and allies acted more quickly in support of the Prime Minister's firm and fully proper actions against Russia, more quickly than the President of the United States. What guarantees can she give us? What confidence can she give us that we will continue to have that great relationship with our fellow members of the European Union once we've left the European Union?
Poor Anna Soubry, who has been driven virtually mad by Brexit, clearly doesn't understand facts, figures and numbers. Anna, if you're listening, perhaps if you're driving, pull over for a moment and hear the scores on the doors. So in terms of the expulsion of diplomats, France 4, Germany 4, Poland 4, the Czech Republic 3, Lithuania 3, Denmark 2, Netherlands 2, Italy 2, Spain 2, Estonia 1, Croatia 1, Finland 1, Hungary 1. Gosh, it's beginning to sound like the Eurovision Song Contest, isn't it? They're doing this really more as a gesture than support. Latvia 1, Romania 1, Sweden 1, the Ukraine 13, Canada 4, Albania 2, Norway 1, and America 60. Yes, that's right, Anna. 60. So if you were keen for tough diplomatic action to be taken against Russia, and you condemned President Trump for being slower than your European allies, he, on his own, has expelled far more than all the rest of them added up together. And I think before you get up and make these ludicrous speeches in the House of Commons, maybe, Anna Soubry, you should either check your facts or simply put a sock in it. Back Back to Northern Ireland. What should we do? Many Brexiteers, very frustrated. Monsieur Barnier, I think, beginning to win his agenda, beginning to get to a point where we might just break up the United Kingdom to get Brexit because he's putting up such huge barriers. I think it's a false choice. Alan from Belfast says, if people here in Northern Ireland had to choose between the EU and the UK, we would pick the UK every day. Alan, I think that is absolutely right. I'm not suggesting a referendum in Northern Ireland on this, but you know what? It could, in the end, come to that. It's Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and that's the way it has to stay. Why, oh, why do people forget how the EU negotiated, and then broke Greece? Well, absolutely didn't they? And their former finance minister made the point that actually, it's, Varoufakis, it's impossible to negotiate with these people. Why does anyone expect anything strong and positive from the Tory party and their drip of a leader, says Caroline in Hampshire. The common sense approach would be for Ireland to leave the EU and to join a union that is really important to them. They should come back to the UK. Economically and socially, we are far more important to the Irish than is the EU. We should never lose Northern Ireland, and our old friend should come home, says Anthony in Greenwich. Well, look, I don't think for one moment the Republic of Ireland's going to rejoin, a new concept of Great Britain. But what I do think is there is a great myth about the Republic. The myth being that they're all massively pro the European Union. Do you know, twice in the last 20 years, the Irish have voted against European treaties. They are stuck inside a currency which is almost of no value to them because most of their overseas trade is denominated in sterling and in dollars. And at some point, Irexit will become a real debate in that country, but we're not there yet. But for now, many, and I guess it's probably mostly in England, are beginning to think, do you know what? We had 30 years of troubles, lots of cost, lots of blood, lots of misery, and now it could be that the Irish border stops us from getting Brexit, and they're getting a bit cheesed off about it. Anne is calling from Belfast. Good evening, Anne.
Hi, Nigel. First of all, there's a couple of things, but my battery's beeping, so just bear with me.
OK.
Who put Barnier in charge? Where does he get off telling us what to do? If they want to put in a border, let them put in a border. They'll suffer. They'll strangle one of their own member states. It's not going to affect us the same way as it will affect them.
Well, that's absolutely right, Anne, because it is Republic of Ireland agriculture that stands to lose the most here, isn't it?
Absolutely. And as for the border and the smuggling, that guy that you had on before the break, he was another professional victim, an Irish Republican sympathiser and a DUP hater, anything but, everybody's welcome, Brits out. We've heard it for years, decades and decades, and it won't stop. And the only people that's threatening trouble here aren't the DUP, but it's Sinn Féin. Because what Sinn Féin doing is they're threatening that the troubles could return and if there's a manned border, there could be terrorism. But any terrorism that takes place will be on their call, not on ours.
Yeah, I mean, I was very interested now. When I was in Belfast a few weeks ago for that, and I spoke at a rally in Belfast for those that actually do want Irexit, what I was struck by was very interesting. It was a new kind of Irish nationalism, mostly young people, and for once it wasn't anti-British and anti-English. And I thought Colm and his attitude, actually, to me, Anne, represented the bad old days.
And of course, they're the victims. Victim makers, more like it. Victim makers. Anybody that's doing any threatening around here is them. And if Barnier wants to make Leo Varadkar put up a border, then let them do it, because they're the ones that will suffer.
Isn't it amazing that
I'd like to see a border, because it'll keep the scum smugglers out from coming across the border here and doing their arms smuggling or whatever else it is that they're doing.
Well, I'm sure, Anne, there are scum smugglers, or there are bad people on both sides of borders who will take advantage of things. So let's not just put all the onus of that on the South. But Varadkar appears to be putting Brussels above the interests of his own farmers, which I find absolutely fascinating. And, clearly, there's been a big change in Northern Ireland. 15, 20 years ago, I thought Northern Ireland was the most Eurosceptic bit of the United Kingdom, and it was, until Sinn Féin completely changed their position. Gerry Adams said before the Lisbon Treaty referendum, we have not fought the British for 500 years to have the island of Ireland governed from Brussels. And now they appear to be a fanatically pro-Brussels party. What do you think, Anne, has changed Sinn Féin's mind?
Vote. Any vote. Foreign vote. Any votes will do. That's what's changed their mind. They're Marxists. That's what they are. They're not Irish nationalists. Oh, you must be kidding me. The Irish people are being strangled. Absolutely strangled by immigration. African gangs are running the streets. The people are out marching and protest on a regular basis. It never hits the news.
And yet Sinn Féin have gone in this very pro-EU direction. Had they not done so, Anne, had Sinn Féin stuck with their anti-EU position, my guess is that Northern Ireland would have been the biggest Brexit part of the United Kingdom. Absolutely,
but Project Fear took a hit. Project Fear came in, and a lot of people voted for to remain. They believed what George Osborne said. They believed what the big banks, big businesses said, and the CBI and all the rest of it. They believed it. And nobody could blame them for believing, because the propaganda was, humongous. And Sinn Féin are up to their necks in it.
Well, Anne, finally, very quickly, you've seen the LBC poll. Does it worry you that there could come a point where Northern Ireland gets ditched?
No.
No?
No.
We'll all stick together, yeah?
I think so. I think if we have a vote here tomorrow, we'll vote to stay with you. I
think you're absolutely bang on the money, and I thank you. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's now 7:45.
Coming up at 8 on LBC, Clive Bull.
Facebook's privacy practices are to be investigated after a week of scandals. But how concerned are you about protecting your data and how it's used?
Clive Bull on LBC.
Lloyds Bank understands that sometimes you need to make they do the same. Joe Harris, Managing Director of Business Banking at Lloyds Bank.
At Lloyds, we've supported over 400,000 new businesses to start up since 2014, and we're also very committed to helping businesses to export for the first time as well, because we see a key growth opportunity there.
If your business has banked with Lloyds Bank for at least 6 months and turns over less than £1 million a year, you can get an online decision on a business loan application of up to £10,000 instantly. Lloyds Bank. When you need to act quickly, they're by your side.
What's the smart way to experience Cork? Fly from London Heathrow up to 5 times a day with Aer Lingus and enjoy a warm Irish welcome the moment you step on board. Discover 5,000 years of history in Ireland's ancient East. Sample the best of Irish cuisine at Cork's English Market, or take in stunning ocean views along the wild Atlantic Way. Fares are from $52.99 each way as part of a return trip. Smart gets ready to explore Ireland. Smart flies Aer Lingus. Book now at aerlingus.com. Offer subject to conditions and availability.
Love your skin. Love your hair. Love your nails. Perfectil delivers nutritional support from within, including zinc, to help you maintain normal skin, hair and nails. Perfectil, the science of beauty, from Vitabiotics, the UK's #1 vitamin company. From Boots, pharmacies and Vitabiotics.com.
When you work for yourself, you learn a few things very quickly. Claim VAT back on as much as you can. Cash flow can go from a flood to a trickle if you don't keep an eye on it. And shoeboxes are not the best filing system. If you snap a picture of your receipts and sort them with QuickBooks, you'll know what's going out and coming in with just a few taps. Track all your expenses and keep your cash flowing with QuickBooks. Backing you. Available now for up to 50% off your first 6 months. For terms and conditions, visit quickbooks.co.uk. Finally, it's spring. The days are getting longer. Time to gather friends and fire up the barbecue. Take the guesswork out of barbecuing this year with the Weber iGrill. The iGrill thermometer connects to an app on your phone. Simply tell it what you're cooking, how you'd like it cooked, and the iGrill will tell you when your food is ready. Now you can claim an iGrill 3 for free when you buy a Weber Genesis 2 gas barbecue. Offer valid until the 15th of April. Participating stores, conditions apply. Visit Weber.com for more information.
It could be nothing,
but I notice she's been flinching when someone comes near her.
And the other day I saw
these bruises on her arms.
I know kids get knocks and scrapes.
But when I asked her about it,
she just kept changing her mind about what happened.
We all have a role to play in keeping children safe. If you think a child may be at risk, report it to your local council who can provide support. Child abuse. If you think it, report it. Find out how at gov.uk/tackle child abuse.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
Well, Michel Barnier would have been very happy this morning, a very happy bunny, with the LBC poll showing that now there are more Brexiteers that would happily sacrifice Northern Ireland if that meant they'd get the Brexit they wanted. I'm asking you, is it time to ditch Northern Ireland? I get by text, we are the United Kingdom. United we stand, divided we fall. The EU would prefer the latter, wouldn't they ever? They've already threatened to take Gibraltar off our hands, says Gaynor in Hull. David here, now this is very interesting. Would it be acceptable to both the Irish and the UK governments to designate a number of trade border crossings for HGVs and other commercial vehicles, whilst leaving other roads across the border available for the Irish people to freely travel, as indeed they've done for many, many decades? There is no need for Northern Ireland to break away from the UK, says David. David, problem. You're trying to be pragmatic. You're trying to be sensible. You're trying to be grown up. Monsieur Barnier wants to make Brexit impossible, and that, to me, is what is really going on. Mark is a brand new caller to LBC. He's calling from Romford in Essex. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, Nigel. Pleasure to talk to you. I'm a great admirer, a great fan of yours.
Well, that's very sweet of you, Mark. Now, Mark, Northern Ireland. We've had difficulty with Northern Ireland. We know that, but it's part of our country, isn't it?
It is, too right. I speak as a former and proud member of the British Armed Forces, British Army. I've done 2 tours of duty in Northern Ireland, and I see friends of mine killed, which haunt me till this day. And the bigger message is there's been a lot of blood spilt on both sides, but the amount of British soldiers I see killed and maimed and psychologically affected, if Theresa May gives up Northern Ireland so we can get out of Europe, she should be disgraced of herself. And remember, Northern Ireland is part of the UK, and collectively we voted as a majority to leave the EU. If we give up Northern Ireland, not only are we playing into Sinn Féin's hands for what they want, we're playing into Europe's hands as well. And then if they think they can do that and get Northern Ireland off of us, they won't stop at nothing to have Gibraltar off us next, as you quite rightly pointed out previously.
I mean, there is part of the agreement last week is the so-called backstop position. Something that Theresa May said in the House of Commons no British Prime Minister could ever accept, and yet it's there as part of our next phase of negotiations, which would effectively put Northern Ireland in a different constitutional position to the rest of the United Kingdom. I mean, Mark, as somebody who was there and saw some of this, if Theresa May accepted that backstop position, would that in effect be a victory for the IRA?
I think it would, absolutely. And all I know is one thing, is that those fishing through into the River Thames have got more guts than what our government has.
Which is why, a few days up from Newlyn, they were a bit pongy. But, Mark, listen, very, very passionate, and, you know, you've been there on the front line, but you feel that Northern Ireland is an integral part of this country and must remain so, yeah?
Absolutely, 100%. Anything less is just to give up on our country and a break-up.
No, listen, very powerful point of view, Mark. I thank you very much for your call. Do call again when we're on this subject. Adam, another brand new caller, is calling from Madrid in Spain. Good evening, Adam.
I am indeed. I'm calling from Madrid, where I believe I may be your number one fan.
Right, well, don't say that. Otherwise, Adam, they might put you in prison along with all the Catalan leaders, so be jolly careful.
Well, I'm a Brexiteer, but I wasn't allowed to vote because I've lived outside the UK for more than 15 years.
Yep.
So all I can do is shake my fist at the TV and shout it's an outrage.
Or even better, Adam, you can call LBC and say what you think, which is what makes this a great station.
Exactly, which is why I listen.
Good.
Okay, Northern Ireland.
Yep.
I believe that everybody is in for disappointment. I think that this drop-back position that has been put into the agreement is something that the British government is very happy with, because they're going to do what all European governments do, and they're going to use the European Union as an excuse to do something very unpopular. And they're going to say, we're very sorry, we haven't found a solution. Northern Ireland is going to have to remain inside the customs union, the single market. And that is going to be a first stage in slowly pushing Northern Ireland into the arms of the Republic. That's what I believe. And I also believe that they're going to do the same with Gibraltar.
Well, I mean, the Gibraltarians would not accept that, absolutely full stop. And I think when pushed...
They wouldn't, Nigel, I agree. I've been there lots of times.
Yeah.
I know I have friends who are from Gibraltar, they wouldn't want to accept it, but 6 million people in Hong Kong didn't really want to accept it, and they got short shrift.
But that was somewhat different, Adam, wasn't it? Because there was a leaseback contract.
Yeah.
There was a leaseback contract on the territories, etc.
On the new territories, not on the island.
I know, and maybe we could have.
I'm not saying I agree with the British government, Nigel. What I'm saying is, I don't believe the British government give. I don't know if I can say on the radio, give a damn about what the people in Gibraltar think, and I don't think they're too concerned about what the people of Northern Ireland think.
Well, to be honest with you, Adam, I have felt that successive British governments have begun increasingly to treat Northern Ireland as a separate place anyway.
Almost as an embarrassment in some ways, I think they treat it.
Yes,
They think that the Unionists, they treat them as an anomaly, unless they need them in Parliament.
Well, isn't that funny that, of course, that now the Conservative government, Mrs May, couldn't exist without 10 DUP MPs?
Exactly. But, like I say, my view is they're going to do what all European governments have done with the European Union and say to their population when they're going to do something unpopular, it's not us, it's Brussels who's telling us we're really sorry.
So you see, Adam, the Brexit deal perhaps giving Northern Ireland a different setup to the rest of the UK?
Yes, I do, and I think it's going to be a first stage might take another 50 years, but I think the British government know exactly what they're doing by...
The trouble is, Adam,
in the agreement.
I fear you may be right. I fear that what Theresa May said would be unacceptable to any British Prime Minister could come true. The worry, Adam, is, and the LBC poll shows it, would enough of the rest of the UK care anymore?
They wouldn't, and I suspect Theresa May, once she's undersigned all this, signed on the bottom line of all this deal, we may not have a Conservative government next time round. I think the Labour government would be even happier to see Northern Ireland given a separate status.
Oh, well, look,
lead towards,
Corbyn does not believe in Northern Ireland being part of the United Kingdom. Of that, there is absolutely no doubt whatsoever. Adam, great call. Thank you very much indeed for not shaking your fist, but for picking up the phone. Another Adam on the line, but this time from Carrickfergus. Good evening, Adam.
Hi, Nigel. I just wanted to call, actually. Very disappointed to the poll by the LBC listeners.
Yes.
And I'd like for you, actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Northern Ireland are the England and especially Great Britain's closest ally, not America. In 2 world wars, the people of Northern Ireland and Ulster volunteered to go when everybody else had to be conscripted. The Ulster people volunteered to go and fight. And it must be very disappointing to hear that people in England, Wales and Scotland would sell Northern Ireland out so quickly.
I think
together.
I think you're right. Adam, also, please don't forget, there were 50,000 people from what is now the Republic of Ireland who also volunteered and were killed in the First World War, many in the Second World War too.
Totally understand, but this has been thrown around this term quite a lot recently with the whole Russia thing going on. It's divide and rule. That's exactly what the EU wants.
I mean, Adam, Barnier, in many ways, has got what he wants. And I think what this poll reflects, because what the poll also says is an increasing level of pessimism about Brexit, how long it's going to take, how clean it's going to be, and how many of people's expectations who voted Brexit are actually going to be met. And I think what this poll reflects is, look, if the last sticking point to getting what we want is Northern Ireland, the hell with it. I think, Adam, that's what people are saying. I don't agree with it myself at all. But do you understand the frustration of people who voted Brexit, thought we'd be out by now, and are now facing a transition period?
Nigel, I spoke to you a few months ago and you called me pessimistic because I said Brexit won't happen, and it's not going to happen. They're going to do everything they can to throw the spanner in the works, and they're using Northern Ireland border because that's all they've got.
I know what they're doing, Adam. I know what they're doing, but I also feel there are so many people in this country that want Brexit, even more than at the referendum. Adam, I thank you very much indeed for your call. I thank all of you for your calls and a massive level of passion on this. LBC have really lifted the lid on a very important, powerful debate. The reason it is where it is because of increased pessimism. That's my view. You've been listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. I'm back tomorrow night at 7. At 10 tonight, it's Ian Collins. But up next, it's Clive Bull.
Nigel, thank you. Now, coming up later at 9, it's the Business Hour. This week's special guest